members, and I see my folks from home too back there. And Joe, thank you for coming and taking time out of your busy conference day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here for sure. So good morning, Chairwoman Bowers and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on behalf of the Kansas Farm Bureau and the broader Engage Kansas Coalition. As the Senator said, my name is Joe Newland, President of Kansas Farm Bureau, representing over 30,000 farm and ranch families across our 106 Kansas Farm Bureau organization. Today, I'm here to share our coalition's efforts in recruiting and supporting Kansans to serve their communities through elected local office. Engage Kansas is a coalition of organizations, including not only the Kansas Farm Bureau, Kansas Association of Counties, Kansas Association of School Boards, League of Kansas Municipalities, Kansas Leadership Circle, Kansas Chamber, Kansas Chamber of Commerce Executives of Kansas, Kansas Association of Realtors, Kansas Bankers Association, Kansas Medical Society, United We, and the Kansas Agricultural Leadership Program. So as you can see, we have a great group of participants there to help us. As a former 16-year board member of the Neosho Public Schools USD 461 and a former member of the Kansas Legislature, I have witnessed firsthand the impact local school boards, city councils, and county elected officials have on creating prosperous communities across Kansas. We heard from our members that a growing concern was a lack of people willing to serve. Kansas Farm Bureau contacted county clerk offices across the state. This is what we heard from those offices. Many of the responses affirmed our members' concerns. The vacancy or the lack of interest in elected leadership, especially across the rural areas of our state, raised our concerns about the viability of our farm and ranch members. Farm families rely on a thriving mainstream and local economy to keep their operations in business. Our members depend on the education, safety, recreation provided by these local governments. Recruiting and supporting citizens willing to serve in these capacities became a priority for our organization, as it is for many organizations across our state. Engage Kansas is a first-of-its-kind coalition, aims to provide nonpartisan, unbiased public resources to support Kansans wanting to serve their communities to elected local government positions. So with that, now I would like the remainder of the testimony to turn it over to Brendan Worth, our Director of Political Affairs, to share more about the needs and resources that Engage Kansas Coalition can provide. So, Brendan?
Thank you, Joe, and you'll hang around for questions afterwards. Oh, wonderful. Well, have you still in the room with us. And well, good morning, Brendan. And one of my constituents from home, I have 14 counties. I work really close with Farm Bureau. They set up our legislative coffees, and I see a lot of my friends from home. So thank you for being here with us. And Brendan, I know you have a lot to tell us, so we'll save some time for questions, all right? Okay,
so
thank you,
first
Brendan.
of all, I just want to say thank you, Chairwoman Bowers and the committee for the opportunity to share our Engage's work. On behalf of all the coalition partners, this is a great opportunity for us to share what we've been doing over the last couple of years. And thank you, just the time that you have. I know it's precious. So get to work. Brendan Worth, Political Affairs for Kansas Farm Bureau. Proud constituent in District 36 in Jewell County, Kansas. I also served on the local school board, Rock Hills USD 107 for 13 years in my community. Really enjoyed that opportunity and still serving here for the next several years. As Joe mentioned, I recognize the impact that my local school board, council, and county commission have on the impact on my community and strategically, how we set our goals and develop economically. Our Engage Kansas Coalition came together with the mission to encourage and support Kansans to run for office. As Joe mentioned, we were concerned from our members, and then we said, how can we address this? COVID had an impact. I served on our local school board, and many of you served in elected capacity during that time frame. And the truth is, there were a lot of decisions that many of us had to make that we weren't really prepared for. Didn't really look when I chose to serve in that capacity, and many of you as well. Those decisions, whether we can who can go to the elementary music program, or can siblings go, or can grandparents go to volleyball games, and those discussions are. I was excited about focusing on what we can do for our kids in general, and those decisions were hard. But what came with that was public scrutiny. Unfortunately, for a lot of folks and in small communities, that public scrutiny can be kind of challenging. And the reality is, so we saw an opportunity, and we as organizations all have these different resources that we.
Brendan, hold on just a moment. We were checking to see if we had a mic on, and we don't seem to, but maybe there's a computer that's not muted as you're chatting. So we were just like, if that echo is bothering you, we can hear it, but we'll continue and see if we can.
Wait, if you need, but I'll happy to keep going.
Is the echo bothering you? No? Well, you go right ahead, Brendan, okay?
Sure thing. So anyway, those challenges about what that public scrutiny looked like, really led us to, okay, we as organizations, Kansas Farm Bureau included, all have resources to help encourage and support. So we started reaching out, in some analogies as we see this, there were almost 1,200 school board seats up in 2023 for election. 457 of those were uncontested. 68 of those had no filed candidates at all. I was one of them. Nobody filed against me. As a candidate, you're like, oh, that's great. I have an easy campaign to sell through. I also tell you in the broader context, when you have candidates, you have a dialogue in your community. You're forced as a candidate to, and as you all know, discuss the issues and develop a platform, maybe a forum in the community in some aspect. When you don't have that in a community and nobody else is running, it gets pretty easy not to have to defend why you're running and why you want to represent and sit on your school board, city council, county commission. So also in 2024, one Kansas county didn't have anybody run for county clerk. There are lots of other examples. My own little small hometown mayoral position didn't have anybody file. Ended up having a writing candidate, but as coalition partners, the league and KAC and KSB, we all visit like, this is a problem. We need more folks willing to step up. We need this dialogue in our communities. It really poses a threat to the economic viability and the quality of life, especially in our rural areas, as Joe mentioned. Recognizing that, we formed our Engage Kansas Coalition. We launched it in February 2023. It's 12 organizations, and I'll go through what they all bring here in a second. We're providing unbiased, nonpartisan support and resources to Kansans to encourage them to run for local offices across Kansas. Our website is the heart of what we're offering is www.engagekansas.org. We kind of did a mock-up, and there's a handout in your packet here I believe you should have, and this is kind of what our website looks like in the paper version. I would highly encourage all of you on the QR code and go visit it. But essentially, I'll walk you through what it offers, specifically to resources, and go with what all the coalition partners are providing. But first and foremost, we started off trying to address the issue of what is the role of local government units. And so oftentimes there's this mystery about what if I'm going to get elected to school board is, and too oftentimes, somebody will run they got one purpose, and that's why they want to run, and they may not like a coach, administrator, or something like that. And so we recognize once you get on a school board, there's a lot of other responsibilities that go along with and very important things that happen. Same things with city council, Kansas Association of Counties, and so in that context, we are a two-click website. You go to engagekansas.org, and in one click, you don't go to the KSB homepage or KAC's. You go straight to what's the role of a county commissioner, what's the role of a city councilman, and a school board member. So, in an effort to streamline that information specifically. And then the other piece of that we're addressing currently is campaigning. Campaigning is a skill that's acquired. Many of you, all of you have had some experience in that realm. And so Kansas Farm Bureau is fortunate to have a campaign school, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. So as I mentioned, we came starting with the concept of knowing what that position is, how to campaign. We also recognize there are resources across the state that help in leadership development. Kansas Leadership Center, so I'm going to flip on the backside of this. Kansas Leadership Center, those of you that may have been a part of that, their adaptive technical challenge training and leadership is a tremendous tool that folks can use to just learn how do you handle these tough challenges in communities. Not all decisions are easy, but there's ways to manage those, and they bring that to the table. Networking, Leadership Kansas and the Emerging Leaders Program provided by the Kansas Chamber is two great networking opportunities. The same with Kansas Agricultural Rural Leadership class. The whole purpose of those is to network folks and learn what communities across Kansas are doing. I'm a former LK grad myself. I'm proud of that fact. I know there's a few of you on the committee. I appreciate my chairman nominating me, so thank you very much for that. And so, those networking opportunities and just learning about what's on Kansas communities, because my little community of Jewell County and Rock Hill School District, I need all the ideas we can get to fix these challenges on our school board and in my community. So being exposed to those, I'm very fortunate to have that, and I'm glad we can share those. United We is a partner that we that came aboard, and they're actually based out of the Kansas City area. They bring what we call the Appointments Project program that really is kind of an interesting stair step of best practices of how their goal is to get more women on boards and appointed boards and commissions across the state at all levels. And what they're doing is really providing a best practices of local governments of how to post and fill those vacancies, because oftentimes those vacancies on a zoning planning board, a hospital board, economic development board are the first stepping stone to somebody being interested in the next level of actually running for office. And so they bring a real valuable, and they brought an awareness to us that we want to continue to help encourage folks to serve in those local appointed capacities. The other organizations that may not bring specific resources, but they bring their memberships and networks to the coalition, such as the Chamber of Commerce Executives of Kansas, the Kansas Medical Society, the Kansas Association of Realtors, the Kansas Bankers Association, all bring invaluable networks. So as we share as organizations the resources we put together, they share it with their networks. Even our 105 counties across Kansas with county farm bureaus, we're not in every network in every community, and they provide value leadership and value connections to share all of what we're doing. I want to go back to campaign school though. We offer at Kansas Farm Bureau a campaign school. It's got over 25 years of curriculum developed by the American Farm Bureau Federation. It is a nonpartisan, unbiased training. It's really the nuts and bolts of what campaigning looks like. We offer two different versions. I'll share with you on the back of the second handout is campaign school flyer. Looks like this. We have two different types. We started out originally with a 2-day session. It covers like a mock campaign, which is valuable for candidates to go and make decisions on fundraising and picking issues and stuff like that. So, and a media training component and mock interviews, again, with the nuts and bolts. So, and then we developed that into what we call our mini sessions or a 4-hour version. We recognize 2 days is a pretty large commitment if I'm going to run for Osborne, school board. So, that may just be a little much training, but we still wanted to be able to provide folks interested in running for small local government positions the ability to just still understand the basic concepts of campaigning. We developed a 4-hour mini session, and essentially it does the same things in sense of, just the nuts and bolts, things like, what should a campaign sign look like? How do you select your issues? What's your voter goal? How do you find that voter goal? The things that are just very simple things, but if you've never had the experience of campaigning, that's what we bring to the table. More importantly, what campaigning school does is bring confidence to candidates. It's a path, it's a tool, because so many that I want to serve, I want to get on city council, school board, or some elected capacity, I don't even know where to start. And this list gives them a path. And so we're excited about that program, and I really appreciate being able to share that today. So let's get our Kansas communities have challenges. We're going to rise to them. We always have. We're going to continue to look for more resources, partners to work with across Kansas. We're just getting started, and we're excited about where it continues to lead us. We ask that you as community members share our work with your communities in your district. This is how we build out and grow our efforts. We've provided over 30 some presentations to communities. We'll come in, do a 15, 20 minute, maybe a panel on local government just to get better leadership groups, Rotary clubs, chambers, whatever. I'll talk to whoever to be able to share, the mission of what we're trying to do. And you never know who's in that audience that might just be motivated to take that next step and put themselves on a ballot. And we'd love to come to any one of your communities as well. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify today on behalf of Engage Kansas and all the coalition partners that Joe listed and on your testimony there. I want to leave you with this, though. My time, 13 years, as I mentioned, on my local school board, and as elected officials, you can understand this. It has been some of the most challenging yet rewarding work and service that I've done. I personally have been fortunate over the last 24 years with Kansas Farm Bureau in my professional career to be exposed to all these different skills and opportunities. I am so excited to be able to bring these things to the rest of Kansas in a way that may we not all be aware of. So I appreciate your support in sharing this with us today. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also know we have several partners in the room. If something I can't answer, some of those partners may be available as well.
Well, wonderful, Brendan. Thank you for chatting with us about this. It truly is exciting to see all your partners. And we do have a few questions, and I'll come back to you. So, Senator Reichman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Joe Newland and Brandon Worth, for your presentation. I've known Joe for a little bit, and I wasn't aware of this organization, and I would say I'm really glad we have something like this. That there's a need, and for training and whatever. I'm sure it's in here, but I wanted to emphasize or at least bring this up. And when they are doing a training or explaining things or whatever, the thing of being a person of good character, somebody they can trust and whatever, and the idea of being a servant, I think is so important. I think a lot of times people run for a lot of other reasons and whatever. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you for your presentation.
Appreciate for the support. I couldn't agree more. It does take a servant's heart. Because I don't know about you guys, or I know several of you on this committee done local government. I mean, I was thinking I was in it for the money, but obviously that's not the case. So,
Senator Bowser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to our Farm Bureau friends for being here today. I'm a small farmer. I'm a member of Farm Bureau, and I'm a proud graduate of the Farm Bureau Campaign School. And I always tell people, and I even say this when I was stumping on the campaign, I always say, our republic doesn't work unless its citizens participate. And I don't care whether you're on the other side of the aisle from me or my side, but your participation is important, and I'm glad that you are participating. And I just really want to applaud Farm Bureau for their efforts. When you think of Farm Bureau, I typically think of insurance and financial products, but you don't realize all of this other stuff that they do. It's important work. I thank you for what you're doing. It's you're kind of unsung heroes in that respect. And I also want to recognize the Ashcrafts who are here from my little hometown of Holton, Kansas. So thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you, Senator.
Senator Fascadeau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am a proud alumni of Leadership Kansas, class of '09, the best class ever.
There you go. That's right. I refrained from that earlier, but that was hard.
We were told to say that. So.
Yes, we were.
So I had an opportunity, Madam Chair, to travel the entire state. Prior to that, I kind of only advocated for my inner city Wichita And, then I think a couple of times on the Senate floor, I acknowledged Farmers Day. I mean, especially when you go through that part where you see the cattle grazing to the steak on the plate. And so I've often, those who run for office in urban areas, city of Wichita, I've always, they don't know, what to put on their sign. Recently, a candidate had words so small, you just couldn't see them, and they didn't win.
Several examples of what to do and what not to do in campaign school. Yes.
And so, so I think something like this has been needed for a long time. And so I'm glad you've brought it to our attention as a body. But who would be doing the training per se? Because we do know rural area, they campaign a little different than city of Wichita. Women campaign differently than men. And so who would be doing the trainings? You said that you would come to local communities to share. So who would be making those presentations? Thank you, Madam Chair.
So when we thank you for asking that question, because you're correct. The facets of campaigning are enormous and it varies throughout the state. So first of all, American Farm Bureau Federation is our parent organization at the national level. They developed this curriculum 20 plus years ago, recognizing a need in rural areas, specifically at the time that there was a lack of folks to help to be campaign managers to help folks run. And so every year, every election cycle, they update that curriculum. And so they form the basis of it for our 2-day campaign school, which last year was in Wichita. This next year is in Overland Park. We bring in some folks from American Farm Bureau to teach that curriculum. And they teach it all across the country. With, I guess, as I mentioned, it's over 80% success rate for those that use and attend. I actually teach the mini sessions. I'm the one that goes into communities as listed on your flyer there, and will do 7 mini sessions throughout Kansas and give the 4-hour presentation using their curriculum as the basis of what that is and the experience we have in those communities and rural communities across Kansas.
Senator Clifford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 points, if you'll indulge me. And my wife, your leadership Kansas classmate, sends her greetings, Brendan. Really appreciate.
She is definitely in the best class. Absolutely.
She heard that. And thanks what you did at the Farm Bureau meeting, particularly the planning and zoning folks and migrating them to government. We had the first ever female member of the Finney County Commission, and she came right off the Planning and Zoning Board. She just swore in last week, so it does work. I want to say the power of being asked is very important. I was asked to be a community college trustee. I was asked to be a county commissioner by my county commissioner. The widow of my predecessor in the House asked me to run in the precinct election. So I do think that's important, particularly concerning women. And I have 4 daughters, so I'm an advocate. We guys, if there's a job and we have 3 out of 10 qualifications, we're all over it. But I've found, and I'm generalizing, that women who maybe have 7 of the 10 will think, I'm just not qualified for that. But if they're asked, they'll step up. So I think that should be communicated. The second thing is I noticed some absence from your participant list. I know you're trying to not touch that third rail of politics, but I'm a county chair. And I spent the day yesterday on the airplane with Reed Howard from Future Caucus, and we were talking about how do we engage particularly young people. And as a county party chair, I find that precinct positions are politics light. And I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, and I struggle, as others do, to get people in those positions, which don't matter till they matter. 7 years, 6 years as a county chair, I've replaced 7 elected officials. And we've had state senators come in here, and 7 out of 13 people voted for them in a precinct reelection, Democrats and Republicans. So I think it is a way to get involved. I think it should be communicated. I see an absence of the parties as you're trying to be nonpartisan, but there's a place for those of us who are in that milieu, because that's a great way to get folks involved, and it really has impact up through and including Congress. A governor would replace a U.S. senator, but we precinct people would meet as a district and actually replace a congressman. That's a huge thing. So I would encourage you to, touch that or have a speaker who is in a party chair position, because that's a great way to engage people. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Petty.
Thank you. I really appreciate this information, and I have to say that I didn't know about Engage Kansas till I heard it. But I would say that another area that many communities have is that they have leadership, like I'm from Wyandotte County, they have leadership opportunities through their chamber in their communities. That's also another way to engage people. It's non-political. Generally, it's a great way to learn more about your own community and the services that are within it. So that's just another opportunity. But this, being from an urban area, often I think about, and others might think about too, that, okay, if you're a rural community, smaller, more people are involved, often you hear everybody knows what's going on in your life, that kind of thing. But the reality just you share with us is that the same issues about being involved in the local government and in school boards is a problem no matter where you're at in our state of Kansas, whether you're in a smaller community or in your larger community, getting people to run and having some understanding about why it's so important to be involved, and that it's not that you don't have to be looking at it with a political lens, but looking at it as being concerned about the betterment of your community and your school district. So I like that aspect of it. I'm going to be putting this information in my newsletter, and just because I think it's a great way to help people know that there's this website they can go for more information. So thank you very much.
Brenda, I don't see any other questions, so it's my turn. So a couple different things. I want to ask you, when you have your campaign schools, what are you hearing from the comments in the audience? I'm going to imagine that people are afraid of public speaking, and I imagine having a debate that is contentious is a problem. What are you seeing in there, and if you have identified those, what are you doing with those?
What we teach in the campaign school context as it relates to forums and debate is you are identifying yourself as a candidate. I think that's what makes our campaign school so unique. Our campaign school does not focus on the politics, it focuses on the voters. And, in order to be a successful candidate, focusing on the voters, what they need, and conveying that message about what you are running on is an important piece of what we teach. So many of those forums and components, yes, we provide guidance, but so much of that is based on the why are you running statement. What issues are you running on? How are you conveying that very concisely? We do our mock interviews in a way, so record yourself. How do you look? How are you presenting yourself to the public? Those are just a lot of simple tips and trainings, that we implement into our campaign school system. One we do in our mini session is why you're running in 25 words or less. Because after 25 words, they're stopped listening, right? You've done door to door. And so, those things that if you've not campaigned before, you're not aware of, that's how to message yourself. And so those are the things we provide in terms of, how to position yourself for a forum or debate in that context.
I think when you said confidence is probably what you're starting with. I'm going to have Senator Clifford ask another question, and then I have a couple more.
Madam Chair, thank you for additional time. I wanted to add an exclamation point to what I said before. You probably ought to get legislative research to see how many of us are here because of appointment. So we didn't run campaigns for the first time we served here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
There is someone, if she's still in the room, is Annie, but there she is in the back. Annie is with NCSL and is in the building today, and they're based in Colorado and DC, and they help state legislators with research, and they have annual meetings where we can go learn things in a nonpartisan way. And I introduced Annie because we do have a women's network in NCSL, and one problem that we've seen is women have to be asked to run, like we've already mentioned that. And there's a really high percentage, and we need to dial that in, Annie, and we do work about how do we encourage more women to win and run, and I also wonder if that even could be worse in rural Kansas, too. And I think that you brought in a partner that you mentioned from Kansas City United, Wee's appointment, and they're educating women. So I'm really thrilled to see that. Maybe we can make that connection with NCSL, Annie. But the importance of women involved. And I had to be asked to run. It wasn't my idea, and I often wonder why. But I am happy to do this job, but it wasn't my idea. And how do we change that around for women? So I am happy that you've identified that as a problem also.
Madam Chair, if I can,
Yes.
we don't share who goes to campaign school. They're in charge of how they want to announce that and all those things. I will share with you, well over majority that attend are female, and oftentimes just that taking campaign school is just enough of the training, the confidence, the skill set, and a pathway to doing this to give them the confidence to file.
I think that is that word, confidence. I do remember, and I've taken the campaign school, that was the 2-day one early on, just to see what I could learn, and I did pick up a few things. But you were exactly right, that 25-word statement, and you made us do it 2 times, by the way, and it really makes you think about what your mission is, I guess, if you want to say that. And I was very happy to do that. And let's see if there's any other questions. Well, I'm thrilled you're here and that you have this idea, and however we can help as well. And Joe, is there any questions for Joe, the big guy? No? Well, thanks for coming in with us, Joe, as well. I know you have valuable time and with all your folks at your conference and in the building. And Brendan, thank you for coming. And we will, it's an excellent idea, we'll put in our newsletters. I think that's wonderful flyers. Could you send us the PDF? And maybe Randy has that as well. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I will see you at home, Brendan. Okay.
Look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, and all my friends who are from my 14 counties, I'm thrilled to see you. And well, if there's no other business come from the committee, we're adjourned.